All right, last lesson for the week. Yesterday we used our skill of evaluating with our skill of translating. Today we're going to revisit solving. So before I move on, let's make sure we know the difference between the two ideas. Evaluate means find the value of, so when you evaluate, you substitute the value into the variable and use the order of operations. Solve, on the other hand, means get the variable alone. Remember, when you solve, you are using opposite operations and moving the opposite of the order of operations. If you remember, on 2 steps, we moved our weaker operation first, our stronger operation second. 99% of the problems will not be difficult for students who survived the first week of Unit 2, and a lot of you are actually there. At least those of you who are working are there for the most part. Either way, this is just another opportunity for you to get better, so let's just go ahead and get to it and see what we've got. So this is similar to yesterday except for the second part. So Stephen is 4 years older than, which means add to Amber. So S equals A plus 4. But look carefully at what they give us this time. Yesterday they gave us Amber's age and we just added. This time it says Stephen is 19. So S is equal to 19. And so I'm not going to use a parentheses when the variable is just by itself, but we end up with 19 equals A plus 4. Which means that now we have to get Amber A by itself, and the way we do that is when we see plus 4, if you remember this, we put minus 4 on both sides, getting 15 equals A. That would be Amber's age, which is 15. So again, that solving is actually even there, along with the evaluating, just depending on what letter they give us. And again, that's why we need to make sure we have meaningful variables, because we have to make sure we set it up the right way. Mark is, and again, I'm not taking a long time on this part because if you're here, that means you should have already gotten the translation part. So Mark is 7 years younger than, which means subtract 7 from Brittany. Plus, it's the same equations that you've had every day. If Mark is 22, so M equals 22, which means put 22 for M. Again, because that M's by itself, I'm not going to use parentheses. But look at what we do here. You want B by itself, you want to find what B is. That means we got to get rid of this minus 7. The way we get rid of that minus 7 is with a plus 7, meaning Brittany is 29. And again, notice Mark is 7 years younger than Brittany, which is the case. Brittany's 29, Mark is 22. Everything works out. And anytime you have that issue, just go back and ask yourself if the answer makes sense. You could probably do this. And I know I'm working against myself by telling you this, but you could probably answer some of these questions without even having to work it out, because you could just pick a number and ask yourself, does it still hold true to the statement that they gave me? So Kim scored 6 fewer points, which means subtract 6 from Regina. So K equals R minus 6. It says that Kim scored 17, so K is equal to 17. So look at that. Now we're going to put 17 here. So 17 equals R minus 6. What we're going to do now, again, is get R by itself by adding 6, getting 23 equals R. There we go. So again, Regina scored 23, Kim scored 17. Kim did score 6 fewer points than Regina, so it does make sense. George scored 8 more points than Xavier. Again, George scored, which is like our is, 8 more points than Xavier, which means add 8 to Xavier's score. So George is Xavier plus 8 when we break that down. If George scored 11, that means that G is 11, so put 11 in for G. And then figure out what X is. Well, the way we figure out what X is by moving this plus 8. We move that plus 8 by doing minus 8, which means Xavier scored 3 points. And that is all there is to it. Okay? So again, as long as you have followed me so far and done what I've asked you to do, this shouldn't really be too many tough days in here, because I'm moving at a pace that allows you to kind of work to understand this stuff very well. Translate again. Cost is 16 per day. So cost is 16 per day. How many days would it take for the cost to be 384? Again, this is the cost to be 384. That means we're looking at C equals 384. So we put that in here. And we have to remember again how we solved that. That's 16 times D, and we want D by itself, so that means we must divide by 16. Divide by 16. I'm assuming that ends in a 4. We'll see. It is 24. So it'll be 24 days for the cost to be $384. Again, that's what those variables are telling you. The days for 24 leads to a cost of $384. And there it is. And F has an asterisk by it because it does have a two-step equation. But again, we've seen two-step equations, but this is the only one that might be tough for those of you who really didn't work like you're supposed to, but I still think you can do it. $5 plus 2 per person. So again, I'm just going to fill that out because we've seen this 3 days in a row. The part we have not seen is that you want the cost to be 67, which means that C is 67. What that means is I'm going to put 67 equals 5 plus 2p. From there, what I have to do is now get this by itself. Now remember that we moved the addition number first. This is the multiplication number. This is the addition number. So even though we usually see that as 2p plus 5, it's okay to move the 5 in front as long as we still move that 5 first because it's weaker. And since that is a positive 5, we will move it with a negative 5. And 67 minus 5 is 62. That goes away. And now that you have 62 equals 2 times p, the way we move that 2 is by dividing by 2. Getting 31 people would lead to $67 of a cost. All right. So with your, actually, here we go. So your test tomorrow is going to be mixed with basic translating problems and the problems that require you to substitute and work. So be sure to take your time. Again, this is it's very important that you try to get as far through the homework as you can. Again, I recommend using this piece of scratch paper for the portions where you're asked to solve or even evaluate so you can see what you're doing. And be sure to practice showing your work so you can actually continue to master the skills. So again, as usual, if you have any questions or concerns, please make sure you contact me so that I can get to you. Outside of that, good luck. And again, let me know when you need me.